Everybody looks beautiful today. Look at your neighbor and say, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. Thank you. You're beautiful. No, you're more beautiful. Keep going back and forth with them. No, you're more beautiful. You're beautiful. Hey, the Lord is beautiful. So that means you can even say to a man, you're beautiful. Oh, God is so good. So good. Kinsey put the promotions out every week about service. Y'all share those? Y'all try to get people here? This is good. Y'all share those promotional deals on Facebook and Instagram. They're good. It's good to get the word out. But when you're like this, you're supposed to be the speaker, and they put, and special message by, and I'm like, oh, Lord, I got to bring the special message. But you know what? This is so silly, or it sounds silly and cheesy, but who likes cheesy? I love cheesy. Give me all the cheese. I like cheesy. But the Lord told me when I was like in the pressure moment of like, oh Lord, open the heavens and let me, just bear you today. And I was like, I got to bring this special message. And the Lord just said, Emily, it's going to be a special message because it's about special people. And you are his special people. And we have to get to a place, there is a prophetic, don't let this scare you. Y'all get nervous when prophetic is mentioned. You're like, what's that mean? Yeah, because it's supernatural, and we're natural beings, right? And so the supernatural, if we haven't exposed ourselves a lot to the supernatural, it gets kind of weird for us. But you know what? I'm okay with weird, and if you're going to come to Lakeview, you're going to have to get used to some weird, okay? But the weird is so good. Have you ever looked at something and been like, that looks weird? But then you tried it, and you're like, oh, it's the best thing I've ever eaten, right? Okay, so Lord, serve us up some weird stuff today, and we know it's going to taste good. That's our prayer, right? But I think God is doing something prophetically that our eyes are being open to. Leadership, not just in this country, but worldwide. God is doing something. There is a lot of turmoil, bad stuff happening in the world. Y'all, we're even feeling it on our home front. Like my 4-year-old last night, laying in bed trying to go to sleep, says something to me, and I'm like, where did you hear that? Right? It's a lot, and it's messy. But the word of the Lord is hovering over this earth, and I think he's had enough of it too. And I think he's looking, he's making this call, right? The Father's making this call down to earth from heaven, and it's a prophetic call to turn his church, to wake us up and to turn us back to truth, okay? And so today, because that can seem overwhelming, right? Sometimes it's just easier to come to church, witness all the yummy stuff, sample it, and then go on about your business. But I think that's the very thing that God is not wanting to happen. So today's a special message, but not necessarily because it's Mother's Day. I think we've done a really good job, and you've done a good job of making all the mothers feel very special. But here's the word of the Lord today is that sometimes, are you ready for heavy, light? We'll go back and forth, but this is heavy, but it's good. That sometimes good holidays like Mother's Day that was implemented by the world, it can bring us joy, but there's so many wounded that sometimes the celebration of that can bring a counterfeit joy. And then we start living in this place, this shallow place of counterfeit things. In this very natural place of let me spend a lot of money on somebody, and that's gonna distract me from all my problems. And so what's happening is we're living in the surface and ignoring all the things underneath the surface, okay? The Titanic sunk because of something that didn't look very big, but it was very big underneath, okay? Like sometimes everybody only sees a little bit of this, but there's a lot going on underneath here. And so many attempt our whole lives trying to just bandage all that or hide it, okay? And so God is calling us out of this place of counterfeit and false. And he's wanting to pull us into truth, okay? Are y'all with me? Does that make sense? Okay? Here's the deal. We're all a work in progress, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Is that God knows that you're a work in progress, and he expects that out of you. Okay? So the overwhelmed feelings, all of that, we're just going to put that aside today. Who wants more of God? Almost everybody in the room. Even if you don't know what that means, do you want more of God? I don't know what that fully means, but I want more because I've tasted and I know it's really good. I want more. God, whatever that looks like. So y'all ready to go on this short journey with me today on connecting the dots and answering this prophetic call of being truth bearers, okay? All right, I think it's important to know, like, who looks at Facebook every day? A lot of us, right? Do y'all ever get those memories that pop up? It's a picture. This morning, I had one. Last year, we were so blessed with an opportunity to go to Disney, okay? Blessed. Sent us there for Pastor Appreciation. Amazing that I got to show my kids that. And we went and had a good week of family time, and I look at this picture, and I'm zooming in, and I'm seeing my kids' faces and noticing all the little things about them that has changed. And do y'all ever see those memories pop up? And even though you might for a second go, "Aw," what is normally the emotional response when you see that memory? I heard sadness. Happiness, but sadness too. What that is, let's dive into that for a minute. You know what? We zoom into pictures. Let's zoom into the things. Let's pay attention to the things. What that is that is an underlying tension. Let me explain. Time is moving, right? Heaven, time doesn't matter. But on earth, there's time. And we are natural beings, so on this earth. We are subject to time and aging, and every day we're moving towards an older age. But then there is this spiritual sense about us because not only are we natural beings, we are supernatural beings. Y'all with me? And so what you're feeling, that feeling of like, the best word I can use is tension. When you see those pictures and you almost feel sick to your stomach because time has moved on and you're in this next year. I'm 365 days later. My girls are a year older, and I'm like, how was that 365 days ago? The icky feeling I'm feeling inside of me is that my spiritual being hasn't developed as much as my natural age has. Are y'all with me? What we're feeling is the tension, and God is not wanting you to bandage the tension. He is not wanting you to celebrate Mother's Day and act like everything is okay. He's saying, let's be real. Let's stop and pay attention to the hard things. And the hard thing is none of us are developing really as fast. I say fast because that's a time word. In God, there's no time. But you might still be in the same place spiritually as you were last year. And are we supposed to feel the tension of that? Absolutely. Here's the deal. It's Mother's Day, so I'll use mothers as an example. Mothers, you are essential. Mothers, you are necessary. Every mother in here, every woman in here, you are necessary and essential. what happens is those words can be used in the natural void of any of the power of God. So culture says, you like being built up by culture, right? By posting a cool picture. You get your worth from that. You're essential. You're necessary. There's these group formings, these social justice groups forming that empower women. But there's no God power. And so that empowerment from culture is counterfeit power. And you are operating in something that you think is making you feel better, but it's actually just bandaging the root of the problem. And so here's what needs to happen is when you encounter Jesus, not a Sunday morning sermon, but when you, say me, when I come to Jesus and we have a supernatural exchange, you ask Holy Spirit to come in you, and then you get baptized in the fire. And if you don't know, that's a whole nother message. I'm sure Pastor Matt has preached one in the archives. We'll pull it up. But when that happens, something shifts. And you go from being necessary and essential, that's really nice, into something truly empowered because you stepped into the power, and the significant person that wasn't very significant before because you were living in a false identity now steps into a place of real significance. And so the prophetic message is that God is bringing revival to this earth, but you can't be a part of it until you realize that you're not just merely necessary and essential, but that you are significant. We have so many wounded people that are just surviving. Moms and dads and grandparents, we're not meant to just survive. And weakness is not an identifier for a survivalist. The enemy has told you because you have struggles that you ain't in the right lane, that you don't got it, that you're just a nobody, and that you just need to survive until the day you die, and it's gonna be miserable and terrible, etc. The fact is, let's go back to the truth, the word, and Jesus said to his disciples, in this life, you're gonna have many trials, sorrows, griefs, but take what? Yell it. Woo! Take heart. Y'all giving y'all's heart away to everything but God, but we're not taking heart in the power of God that will preserve us and empower us and truly make our life significant. I want everybody to make this declaration over yourself. Man, woman, child, whoever is in here, I am significant. And we're gonna go to the root of it. I'm gonna disempower and cut off every lie of the enemy today, and you can choose to go with me. Come on. Let's look at Genesis. Look at Genesis. Let's go back to the roots. Okay, I don't care if you're Scottish, Irish, whatever. Your root is Adam and Eve, okay? Adam and Eve. Let's go. Genesis 1, verse 26. Let's read the truth. Ready? Then God said, let us make human beings in our image to be like us. Verse 27, so God created human beings, so he did. He said, hey, I think this is a good idea. This is what I'm going to do. And he did it. He created two. A man, says God created them, male and female. He created them. That's a lot of repeating words. He's trying to let us know he did the thing. He did what he wanted to do. And they were holy beings. They reflected his image perfectly. We don't even know what that is because we're so messed up, okay? We are messed up. I'm messed up. You are messed up. We just get that out of the way, okay? We're liars. Whoo. We nasty. We say bad things. We harbor things. We are not like Adam and Eve was when they were created, okay? When it says that they were created in his image, that means that like my phone, when I pull up my camera and I turn it to selfie mode, that is a clear image, correct? Come here, let me take a picture of you here. It's a clear image. This is what Adam and Eve were like. They were like a clear mirror. And when they stood before God in the garden, which was constantly, they reflected what God was. Okay, y'all with me? But then they did what? They did what we all do, so we really can't blame them because we just like them. They rebelled against the Holy One, okay? So does anybody have kids that have gotten a hold, or grandmas or grandpas the kids got a hold of your phone, and you picked up your phone one day and you went to take a picture and you were like, that picture's smudgy, somebody's been putting my phone in their mouth. Or they touched it with food, right? And the picture is all blurry. So what happened is Adam and Eve were the mirror that reflected God. That was his plan, but they rebelled. So their mirror got all fuzzy. It wasn't clear anymore, okay? I'm just saying, right? That's something that we can relate to, right? We're a fuzzy image of God now. We just are. And we have to accept that fact without shame. But a lot of y'all are living in shame, rejection, things that you've set your own self up for. Some of y'all don't let nobody in, including God, because you're so ashamed of your fuzziness. And God knows all about it. He said, why are you hiding from me? When Kennedy does something wrong and she runs and hides, I'm like, girl, I know you did this. Stop lying to me. Just come here. I love you. We're going to talk about it. You might get a spanking, but we're going to talk about it. Right? So God's saying, before we go any further, stop. He created you in his image, but yet he knows that you're mirror and clean right now, and he's okay with it. He's okay. Okay? Are we there? We're together on the same page. So what happened next is there's a problem. And in a story, when there's a problem, there's usually an answer. So the answer to the cloudy mirror that couldn't reflect Jesus appropriately came. It's Jesus. Everybody say it's Jesus. He came, and he was the perfect image of the Father. So the perfect mirror came down, and he said, I'm going to do some things that's going to make a way for you to not be a fuzzy mirror anymore. Walk with me, and I'll teach you. Look at my face. I'll teach you. I'm going to teach you how to wipe it clean. I'm going to teach you how to. Have y'all ever tried to clean it with like all-purpose cleaner and that mirror just ain't coming clean? It gets more streaky. Some of y'all coming to church, but you're not having encounters. You just continue to be streaky. And the Word of God and Jesus gives us he brings the good stuff. Yeah, the real good glass cleaner. The one you find in the car section, auto section. Y'all, I just gave y'all a tip. Y'all know now, go to the auto section for your mirror cleaners, okay? All right, glass cleaner. So Jesus came as the answer. You can't sit on the front row. Jesus came as the answer, okay? And he had to sit with his disciples. It was so important for them to understand that he was the perfect image of the Father. He wasn't just another prophet. He wasn't just another powerful guy on earth, but he was actually from the Father. Some of us know Jesus from what we've been told, but we don't have a personal testimony, and we don't know exactly who Jesus is based on a personal testimony. We're just going off of somebody else's testimony. So, y'all, when you come in here, this is a great opportunity to encounter, because the atmosphere's set. You guys, like this atmosphere's set, y'all. If y'all can't get in here, you know what I mean? So get in and say, I want to have a personal encounter with you, Jesus. You know what that's going to happen when you close your eyes? You might have to get on your face. That's what all those people are doing when they get on their face or acting crazy. They're just getting in a place where it's just them and God. Because you've got to know, God is doing a thing where he's saying, to get to this revival, there's some things, foundational things that the church needs to go back to. And when you get back to that foundational thing, have you ever about to lose a balloon and you grab it real quick, a helium balloon? It's like that. There's a string. Imagine a string from us to the Father. And there's a connection that he's made. But if we let go of that string, we're disconnected. So we have to have the foundational teaching, the string, right? And so when we know this, when we know that we're created in the image of God, that God's okay that we're dirty, but then he's provided a way to get us clean, that's a foundation to say, you know what? I am significant in Christ. Now, outside of Christ, I ain't got a hold of the string. But when I get a hold of the string, and I say, okay, God, I'll come in. I'll get in front of you. That song we were singing, Show Me Your Face, Lord, that's a hyperbole in a sense. We're not crying out for God to show up and show us his face. The word says he's already done that. Y'all, he bore everything. He's waiting on you today. He was waiting here for you before you got here. You've got his attention. You have the attention of the Father, okay? He's waiting on you. And so when we cry, show me your face, what that really is, it's just saying, God, I'm going to answer the call to see your face. So it's an action from us. It's not saying, God, I don't know if you're here, and I don't know if I'm comfortable with you. No, it's when we're singing, show me your face, Lord. What that is that mirror running and saying, God, I want to show me your face. Show me your face. And so it takes us going to the face of God to see it, because if we're not in front of the face, we can't reflect. What are you standing in front of? What are you reflecting? If you're reflecting something else, God isn't going to work out the prophetic thing that he's doing in you. And I'm going to tell you, I could have chosen not to preach this word today, but guess what? When his word is coming on this earth, he would have used somebody else to do it. So I said, yes, Lord, I'll share this word, and I'm also going to do the work it takes to get in front of your face. It's going to take some discipline. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some selflessness. It's going to take some self-actualization. And when he created us in his image, it's not saying you're not in his image anymore. It's just saying that we're a little messed up. Let's read Romans 8:29. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 47, the first man was of the dust of the earth, Adam. The second man is of heaven, Jesus. As was the earthly man, so are those who are of earth. So we're like Adam. And, everybody say and. We're not just like Adam. We're also, it says, and as is the heavenly man, Jesus, so also are those who are of heaven. So we're living in a great tension. We are flesh and bad, but we're also heaven. You are heaven on earth. In verse verse 49 says, and just as we have borne the image of earthly man, so shall we bear, everybody say, bear the image of the heavenly man. So he's saying, I don't care what your past looks like. I don't care what today looked like. I don't care how bad the fight was this morning. You're still made in my image. And then 2 Corinthians 3:18, but we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror. Now, when this was written, this is what their mirror looked like. Some of us probably need that kind of mirror. What they did was they took metal and they would just shine it up real good. I think that got taken the wrong way. Y'all are beautiful. I just think we're looking at the mirror at ourselves too much and not reflecting the Lord. But they were using these mirrors that were not like our mirrors. We got nice mirrors. We blessed. They were using this shined up metal. And that's what he's coming from. Paul's saying, but we all with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror. This is the mirror he was beholding in, the glory of the Lord. So it wasn't clear. Our being, look how boldly he says this and confidently, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just as by the Spirit of the Lord. So it's a transformational process over the full period of your life. Here is the promise, is that you will not be made perfectly in the image of God like Adam and Eve originally were until you're dead on this earth and with the Savior. So that just takes the pressure off. All you perfectionists in the room, take it off. You don't clean up before you get in the bath? Come, get in front of the face of the Lord and say, I'm just dirty and unclean, but guess what? I'm here. And I'm ready for you to clean me and transform me, and I know it'll take years, and that's painful. It's suffering, but I'm willing. Some of us in our whole life trying to avoid pain and suffering. We don't want to come to the altar because we're afraid that if we do, we will bust open like a dam and that we will not be okay. But we have a Savior, and if we trust Him, He will take that messiness and He says, you know what, we're going to throw that to the side. I'm going to deal with that, and I'm going to reflect me and you. Who knows? Maybe your suffering is just a reflection of the cross. And He says, my cross is in your suffering, and it's okay to have that. It doesn't make you less like me. It makes you more like me. Ooh. We're a zoomer, right? We're nosy. We like to zoom in. I've already been talking about that. Y'all know y'all been looking at pictures and you zoom into the background so you can be investigator, even though you have no business. Their kid ain't in their seatbelt. I knew. You know, okay? Please put your children in seatbelts. I'm not saying that. But you know what? But here's the deal, is we zoom in on the humanity type things, but we avoid at all costs zooming in on the spiritual things because we're afraid of what it might require of us. But what we don't realize is it's the better thing. It was like Jesus trying to explain to His disciples, the better thing is for me not to be here with you. It's actually better if I go. And they had a real hard time understanding that. But if Jesus went, He said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. If you know me and then I go, then you're going to get something better. Better. The mirror is going to be cleaned off more if I go and you all get my Spirit. Let's read about His Spirit. John 15:26. It says, but I will send you the advocate. Not maybe. I will send you. He sent it. It's here. some translations, it says the Comforter. Some of you are tormented constantly, and it's because you haven't had contact with the Comforter. He promised, I will send you the Comforter, the Advocate. The what? The Spirit of truth. He will come to you from the Father and will testify all about me. And you must also testify about me because you have been with me. You can't testify about Jesus or bear his image if you haven't been with him. Some of you guys are living in this counterfeit place, but you've got truth living inside of you. How odd is that we have truth? You've asked the Holy Spirit. You all raised your hands earlier. I want more of God. I want to see more. Guess what? That seed, that truth, that powerful thing is already in you, but we're suppressing it because we have fear. That's it. So not only are we called to bear his image, but we have to zoom in on a key attribute that is foundational to everything spiritual, and that is truth. Truth will bring freedom in your life. I'm telling y'all. Pastor Emily is walking around with some demons stuck to my mirror like decals. And I never knew it. Until I got really serious and got in front of the face of the Lord, and he said, hey, you're reflecting me, but there's that spot there that it can't get through there because you haven't peeled it off, you haven't dealt with it. So I had to get in his presence, and I had to deal with the spirit of intimidation, because the spirit of intimidation and the spirit of truth can't coincide. You have to choose one. The lukewarm church isn't going to stir this revival. He's okay with a cloudy mirror if you have truth. Bearing like fruit in your life. So the key is, it's like, how do we do this, Lord? We want more. We're terrible beings. We fail and mess up. We don't want to mess up. So what do? You declare the truth over yourself. He sent the Spirit of truth, and then he said, bear the truth. Bear in the Greek means to put on like clothing. None of y'all walking out your house naked. I hope not. Because you know that clothes are vital. Do we, when we wake up and we spend so much time ironing, picking out our outfit, so we will appear humanly well, are we paying any attention to our spiritual clothing? Because when you walk in truth, you won't walk in intimidation or fear. You won't have to spend hours shaking those things off. When you walk in truth, those things might still be on your heels, but guess who you're looking at and reflecting? You're reflecting the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, who is greater than all those things. Y'all with me? So you know what? Who in this room has always, and let's be real, wants to be a somebody? Nobody wants to be a nobody. Who wants to be a somebody? All your life, you've wanted to be more than what you are. Come on, get into agreement with me. You've wanted to accomplish more, do more, be more fruitful, be more effective. It's true, right? We want to be a somebody. But then we feel weird wanting to be a somebody because we really feel like a nobody because of our failures. But when we get into the spirit of truth, What is revealed to us is the reason that you want to and have a desire to be a somebody is not because you are arrogant. It's because God created you to be a somebody. He created you to be an image of God on this earth. And the testimony is not that you are clear. Come on, I am preaching. The testimony is not that you are perfect, but the testimony is that you are clean, but you are still moving, that you are still shaking, that you are unclean, but you hold power. Come on. Woo. That's the testimony. That's the testimony. Is that you feel like everybody else around you is perfect. You just swimming in the enemy's lies. And you're not. Be in that mirror. Just being in front of the Lord. Come on. Woo, this prophetic thing God is doing, I keep hearing over and over, and I know it's right. He keeps directing us towards the book of Esther. He keeps directing us towards the book of Esther. Do y'all know the story of Esther? Yeah? Esther was a Jewish woman, a nobody. Essential. She wasn't yet significant. Right? And the king needed a wife. He was most attracted to her. So he makes her queen. She becomes queen. Steps into the kingdom with all this power. Should favor. But it was only about halfway through the story that she really transitioned from a nice person into somebody that made a difference. Where are you at? We may only be halfway through your story, and you might still be over here. Men and women, because guess what? The book of Esther also had a very necessary character. His name was Mordecai. And when the people of people of Israel, the Jewish people, were going to be all killed, wiped out, because the evil Haman came to the king and said, there's this group of people that are against you. We need to wipe them out. And he said, hey, I trust you. Here's my ring. Do what you need to do. Esther was one of those. And Mordecai met her at the gate and said, listen, we got to do something. And she said, if I go to the king, I know I'm his wife. It ain't the same as now. Us wives have too much boldness. We say way too much anytime we want to say it. I'm sorry. I really am. The Lord still got that smudges on me, okay? I'm just working it out. But Esther knew that if she approached the king without him inviting her, that she could be killed. So let's read in chapter 4, verse 13. This is vital, because now you've got the teaching. You know who you are. You are created in the image of God, and you do have the spirit of truth in you that will set you and others free. Are we there? Then we have to apply this story to our life. Let's look at verse 4:13. Mordecai, who's her cousin, sent this reply to Esther. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace that you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If we think that sitting up in the church is going to save us and it's going to save our land, if we think a prayer a week is going to save our brothers and sisters and family, we're foolish. Verse 14, if you keep quiet at a time like this, he basically said, I know my God, deliverance and relief will come for the Jews. It will arise from some other place, but I'm going to tell you the truth. But you and your relatives will die. Here's the deal. God's going to make this last revival in this world happen. And he says, you can continue to sit comfortably and enjoy counterfeit power and joy, or you can step in a place of significance. He said to her, perhaps. He said, who knows if perhaps you were made queen for this moment. Perhaps you were born in the 1900s for 2024. Perhaps. And you know what? We all get hung up on that perhaps. It's scary to some. Because you say, but what, perhaps? Like, God, I need a little bit more security than that. But here's the deal. You have the spirit of truth in you, and we have to know that that is enough. And if you don't think that's enough, then you'll perish. And somebody else will grab a hold of it and make it happen. So we get to choose today to be nice or effective. Do we really have to know even what God is doing? At this point, Esther didn't know the future. She didn't know what was coming. And guess what? God isn't mentioned one time in this book. Go read it for yourself. Not one time is God mentioned in the book of Esther. Do you know why I think that is? Because God is in his people, and it is a picture of Esther and Mordecai having the option in the moment of choice and decision of just being survival and let the world happen to them, or will they go in front of the face of God and say, no matter what happens, I know you created me to stand before you and bear your image, and in that comes the power. Come on. Let's look at verse 15. Here's her response. Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. She made the decision. She said, go and gather together all of the Jews of Susa and fast for me. I'm going to fast, and my servants are going to fast. We're not going to eat or drink for 3 days. Losing my earrings. For 3 days, no food or drink. Why was she able to fast with no food or drink for 3 days? Because she tapped into the spirit of truth in her. The enemy tells you that you cannot. God says you can't. But the one that's greater is living in you, and because I'm living in you, you are greater. So you can. Stop telling yourself that you cannot. When you start making little bits of decisions to discipline yourself spiritually, you will become Mordecai. You will become Esther. You will become powerful and effective. She said, we're going to fast. And then, though it is against the law, say, even though people won't understand my life, even though people won't understand my zeal, even though the people at school, the other parents, they won't understand me, because guess what? You're set apart. You are set apart. We're set apart. She said, even though it is against the law, I will go in to see the king. And if I must die, I must die. If I must die, I must die. This is vital. I'm closing, I promise. This is a vital component, because you're like, all this makes sense. Does all this make sense? It can make sense, but we got to make it happen. Right? That's where us perfectionists get in trouble. Who's a perfectionist? Keep your hands raised. Keep your hands raised if you kind of get nitty gritty on things. You want everything to be perfect and you get mad if it's not. Okay, but can you also tell me that you're probably very unorganized? You're a procrastinator. Ooh, I'm nailing y'all. Because I'm one of them. So what we do is we don't move. And we look at the current. And we get overwhelmed with the current. This is vital. Everybody listen, this is vital. to be able to make this happen, to be an Esther, to be a Mordecai, you must embrace an eternal perspective. I was ironing, doing the glorious work of ironing several weeks ago when God birthed this message in my spirit, and it's been burning ever since, and it's been changing me. I was ironing, and I was getting into a pity party and in an ugly place, and all the things were unfair and out of order, and I was complaining to God. And do you know the Spirit of truth, thank you, Jesus, rose up in me, and I started thinking past my current situation, thinking past my emotions, and he said, Emily, all this is nothing when you look ahead into the eternal perspective. I created the now for the after. Esther realized that the reason I have my now is because of the after. So much for that nice Mother's Day message. Woo! If you can partner with the message that God created you for heaven and not for earth, you got this in the bag. You will be a giant. You will shift things. You will make a difference. Woo! Woo! That the reward and promise of our sacrifice and sold outness for the Lord on this earth will ultimately be fulfilled after these moments in life on earth. And that's when the work of salvation, which is transpiring right now in your life, will be finished in the after. And what we do now with the truth will bear weight in eternity. Hebrews 10, he says it here. So do not throw away this confident trust in the Lord. Remember, everybody say remember. Remember the great reward it brings you. Patient endurance is what you need now. We put this word in a box. If I can endure this rocky season in my life, then I'm going to get to this place where it's going to be peaches and cream. We were just having this conversation on the phone. One season of suffering comes, it cleaned up that spot. The next season of suffering comes, cleans up the other spot. If we can't embrace that, Shelly, you've been through some hard things, sister. But you know what? God still gets the glory because he's cleaning the spots off you. Because the God in you is going to make way. It's been prophesied too many times. Too many times. And because we think that it didn't happen right now, well, then all that prayer was for waste. It says in verse 36, patient endurance is what you need now, so that you will continue to do God's will. So do whatever you have to do to work out patient endurance in you. Patient endurance. Patient endurance is what you need now so that you will continue to do God's will. Then, everybody say, then you will receive all that is promised to you. God hasn't forgotten your promises. They're just not there yet. They're not made manifest yet because you haven't finished the race. We've got to finish this thing and then the after. And that seems real, like, is that even real? It is real. Eternity is real. Hebrews 10:38 says, now the just shall live by faith. Now is when we have to have faith. Now is why we have to move, because the promise is going to be fulfilled in the after. We're going to finish this. Verse 5, on the third, or chapter 5, on the third day of the fast, she didn't finish the fast. Everybody else was still fasting. I think God prompted her and said, now. We get chewing these like things. I'm going to fast for this many days, and then I'm going to do this, and then God, you're going to speak to me on that seventh day. It's not in our timing. On the third day of the fast, she acted on it. She put on her royal robes. Do y'all remember that whole bear word? Not a grizzly bear. The bearing of truth. What was it like in the Greek? It was putting on, come on, y'all tracking with me. Bearing is like putting on, what did Esther do? She put on not some regular clothes. She put on her royal garments and said, I'm going in. When you put on truth despite what you feel, it is going to cover all of that yuckiness. It is going to cover all your deficiencies. If somebody asks you to share your testimony, don't go running in fear. Because now you're not good enough to share that testimony, but God says, put on truth, and I'll go ahead of you. She put on her royal robes and entered the inner court of the palace, just across from the king's hall, and the king was sitting on his royal throne facing the entrance. Y'all, he's in this other house, but the door's open. She goes from this place into the inner court, and he can see her coming. God will know when you're coming. He knows what you're fighting through. He knows the hurdles that are in your way, but he says, keep coming until you get to my face. Show me your face, Lord. Esther got right in front of his face, despite the risk. Come on, somebody say, despite the risk. And verse 2 says, when he saw Queen Esther, band, y'all come on up, starts playing that song, Show Me Your Face. When he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he was holding a scepter as tall as him with this orb on top. And when she came in, I don't believe in that moment God shifted his heart. I believe it was the moments from the days before. God was already working. If you're in a spirit of truth, God is already working before the moment of the point, the point comes. So that right there should just disarm fear. I can just imagine this. He's got this scepter. And she comes in. And immediately he welcomes her, it says. And he reaches out his golden scepter. And that was favor. He spared her life right in that moment. When you approach the face of God, he's not going to say, what are you up to? Some of y'all are so wrapped up in past rejection. You won't even go into the inner courts. You're afraid of the face of God that he's going to reject you, but he's holding a golden scepter of favor. And he's saying, I prophesied revival over your life. And if you don't come to me, then I can't give you my favor. And I just see him reaching that scepter out. But you know what? When he reached out that scepter, when kings did that as a sign of favor and welcoming, to receive the favor, the person in question has to come kiss the end of the scepter as a sign of receiving the favor. And Esther kissed that scepter and received the favor. The Lord has a scepter and he's reached it out to you. And he said, you have favor, you have my image, you have my power, you have all that you need. Will you take it? Will you kiss the end and bear truth, even about yourself, that I accept you, and that not only do I accept you, but I've called you. I've called you to make what I want to happen on this earth happen. You're it. Say, I'm it. And here's the deal. This ain't just about Esther. Esther, I don't believe, ever would have done this without Mordecai's prompting. You men in the room, you're called to be a Mordecai. You are called to stand in truth. You are called to speak the truth to the women in your life. You are called even, yes, women, listen to me. They are called to tell you when you are out of line. Because God knows us women get out of line real quick. But men, don't you dare intercept that thing if you're not bearing truth. We've both got to be in unity. Truth bearers, get in front of his face. It would save a whole lot of time on Sundays if the worship team didn't have to work for 10 songs trying to get y'all engaged and in the face of God. If y'all walked in here ready to get in God's face, we wouldn't have to sing that song for 30 minutes. But then y'all would be so enamored with God's face that you wouldn't care that we sang it for 10 minutes. And that's when revival happens. Woo! So here's the deal. Stand up with me. This is not a feel-good message. This is a life or death message. And I bear it today with the weight. I've been praying 2 weeks at 6 o'clock in the morning for you. And I'm glad to do it. It's going to take fasting and prayer. And it's going to take a lot of intimacy with the Lord. This box of matches, it's necessary for fire. But it's not fire until it's activated. Especially if it's still in the box. Why are all the LGBTQs celebrating coming out of the box, but the Christians are hiding? Christians are hiding, but Esther took the risk. Mordecai took the risk. And they said, I'm going to be counterculture because I'm set apart. And you know what? You may suffer for a little while. You may not see the fruit of your seed until after you're with the Lord face to face. But I'm going to tell you something. If you get in the face of God, truth, thank you, Paige, in you. Well, I wasn't holding it right. But you will keep burning. Now look, I wasn't paying attention, and what happened? If you want the fire, I don't care that it's Mother's Day. If you got to go, I totally understand. But if you want the fire of God, if you want that spirit of truth to be ignited in you for such a time as this, you only have an opportunity now to